Hello, today is Netzach Shebe Gevurah, the 11th day of Sefirah, and I want to give a brief overview of the Midah of Gevurah. Now, of all the spheres, I think Gevurah has kind of a negative reputation. It's maligned, it's misunderstood, we associate it with negative things like harshness, discipline, punishment. But in Chassidus, the Midah of Gevurah is not, it doesn't have a negative connotation. It's actually very positive. It's actually a deeper form of giving. So if we think of Chesed as being the flow, the turning on the faucet, Gevurah is limiting the flow so that it meets the needs of the recipient. It's expressing ourselves in ways that are considerate of the other person without overwhelming them or overpowering them. And, the root of Gevurah is in Hashem's Tzimtzum, when Hashem withdrew himself in order to create space for the world to exist. If Hashem had not withdrawn himself, his light would fill up the whole world and there would be no room for anyone else. Hashem wanted to have a relationship with us, and therefore he removed himself in order to allow space for us to exist. So even though it seems like you're pulling yourself back, it's actually for the sake of another person. It's actually to give another person space. And this holding back is actually a greater form of chesed. It's in Chassidus it's called Gevurah chesed, and the intensification of chesed, because the strength that it takes to hold back is actually stronger than whatever it is that's flowing. Like, think of like a horse, a runaway horse. In order to stop that horse, it takes more power than what the horse itself has, and we find that in everything. Like the strongest force in the world is the nuclear force. It's, in the center of the atom. It's tiny, but because it's holding back so much strength in order to keep that atom, the nucleus of the atom, together, when that is released, it's a much, much, much more powerful source of strength. And because it's so powerful, that's why we have to be very careful with it. So chesed, the color that's associated is blue. It's the color, the water and the sky, and it's very flowing. But Gevurah is that power. It's associated with the color red, with fire. And we run towards water, but we run away from fire. So fire, it evokes like fear or awe because it's so powerful. So Gevurah, we have to be aware that it's a very intense and very strong power, and it's best used in very small doses. It's not meant to overwhelm or overpower. If there's too much Gevurah, it's not good. Because it's so powerful, we have to kind of limit the flow and use only a little bit of it. So when we put limits on ourselves, it allows us to tailor our giving to meet the needs of the other person. It's not about what I want to give, but what the other person needs to receive. It's about choosing your words carefully to what the listener can absorb and understand. So it's like when you're raising a child and you want to teach the child to do things on their own, it might be easier in the short term to just say, okay, forget it, I'll just do it. But it takes Gevurah to hold back that impulse and to give the child the space to learn how to do it themselves. And sometimes we do need to be strong. We do need to encourage a child to go a little bit further. But we have to remember, I'm doing it as a deeper form of chesed, as a stronger form of chesed, to teach the child to do it on their own than to do it for them. Another important aspect of Gevurah is it's not primarily about disciplining another person, it's about disciplining myself. Like it says in Pirkei Avos, Ezo Gibar Kaivish Yitzri. Who is strong? Someone who overpowers their own inclination. So if I want to discipline my children, it starts with me. It starts with my own self-discipline. If I want them to be in bed at a certain time, I have to be disciplined that I'm going to start the bedtime routine at at a consistent time. I have to have those structures in place so that the kids learn that this is our routine and this is our schedule, and they become used to it. But if I'm not in that groove myself, then I can't expect that they are going to, get into it. So I have to discipline myself in order that create a routine for them, and then it becomes much easier. Same thing, if I want the toys to be put away, if I want to teach them to put away the toys, I have to discipline myself that as soon as we're done playing, we're going to put it away. If I have not created that routine, I can't get upset with my child that they haven't done it yet. Now, we're all different. We all have, different strengths, different weaknesses. We all are strong in certain areas and weak in certain areas. So, a lot of times we make a mistake of focusing on the area that we're weak, and then we tell ourselves, like, oh, I'm so undisciplined, and I can't do this, I can't do that, and I can't, hold myself together. But we're all holding it together in certain areas, and we are not holding it together in other areas. So, instead of always focusing on the areas where we're weak, focus on the areas where you're strong. So, let's say one person, they don't have a lot of self discipline around food. They tend to overeat, but they're very disciplined with time. They get up on time, they use out their time well. Another person might be very disciplined with their eating, but they talk too much. They say the wrong thing. They're not careful with the words that they use. As we say, you have to be just as careful with what comes out of your mouth as what goes into your mouth. Some people, might need discipline with their spending, but they're very good at, structure with, their space. They clean up well. So we all have different areas where we're disciplined. We all have different areas where we're not so disciplined. So instead of always only focusing on the areas that are weak, we can focus on the areas of our strength and build and grow from there. And in the areas that you're weak, you just need to set small goals and then gradually grow, because success begets success. When we feel weak, when we feel disempowered, it just makes it much, much harder emotionally to, keep on going. But when we give ourselves messages that we do have the strength, we have the strength inside of us, we just might have a strength, in a different area than someone else. So then we can feel more empowered to set more goals and to succeed and build ourselves up slowly, slowly, slowly. Um, when someone is very disciplined in a certain area, it can be like upsetting for them, or they can't figure out why someone else is struggling. Like, people who are very good at organizing their space, it can be like, it could bother them, or they don't understand, like, how can you leave your house like that? Or someone who's, disciplined with food, how can you eat like that? So again, we have to keep in mind that just because you find it easy and you don't struggle in a certain area, you don't understand someone else who is struggling in that area. So very, very important to use our Gevurah to be careful, be cautious with the words that come out of your mouth, and not to criticize and not to put down, constrain that urge, and instead use your Gevurah, use your words that empower and lift up the other person. Gevurah is the strength to do something difficult. And again, we could use this with our children. Instead of, getting into power struggles with them, acknowledge that for you, this is a very hard struggle. Hashem gave you a challenge in this area. Maybe there's a child who's hitting their siblings. Instead of, trying, of course, we do have to, try to keep the other children in the house safe. But we tell, Hashem gave you such a strong drive in this area, and you have to work so hard in order to control that. You are such a gibar when you're able to hold back that urge to hit or to take away somebody else's thing or to bother the other person. Think what kind of gvura that takes, what kind of strength you have in you that Hashem gave you that struggle. So Gevurah is that quiet inner strength when we're holding steady, when we feel like we're about to collapse, but we pull ourselves together, we make the hard choice. We take a stand in an area where we know it's going to be difficult, but we follow through. This all takes Gevurah. And the key is to remember that we have the Gevurah inside of us. If we're facing the challenge, that means that we do have the strength within us to overcome it. We just have to find it and access it. So this week, the week of Gevurah, most important is use your Gevurah not against someone else, but to draw out the strengths within yourself and within the other person.